Crime across all its types and all its classifications is so expansive that at the macro level, it does not differentiate between who the victims are. Every type of criminal act has its pick. Children, women, men, young or the elderly. In many crimes, age and occupation is no bar. But for some crimes, the targeted kind, such details matter the most. You are watching Prime Crime, a WION special series. I'm your host Dharamjot Kaur. Welcome to the show. When the Saudi Crown Prince visited with Donald Trump at the White House last week, one name came back into the spotlight: Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist from Saudi Arabia based in the United States and a strong critic of the government run by Saudi's de facto ruler, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, MBS, as his popular moniker goes. One question from a reporter at the White House on Khashoggi triggered a terse comeback from the American president and a diplomatic apology from MBS.
Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist.
We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc. in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that, and it's painful and it's a huge mistake, and we are doing our best that this doesn't happen again.
But today's story is not about the White House moment, rather what caused it. And why is it that years later, Khashoggi's name still makes US and Saudi uncomfortable? It all began back in 2018. On September 28 that year, Jamal Khashoggi visits the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. The journalist has a Turkish fiancée, so he goes to the consulate to collect a permission document to marry her. The officials tell him to come back later. On October 1st, 2018, Khashoggi returns to Istanbul after a trip to London. The next day, on October 2nd, he goes back to the Saudi consulate. His fiancée waits for him outside. 4 hours pass, Khashoggi does not come out. A consulate staff member comes out and tells the fiancé that Khashoggi left through the back door. She then contacts the Turkish police, and from here begins a case of disappearance that takes everyone by surprise. Within 1 day, a statement emerges from power corridors of Saudi Arabia. On October the 3rd, Saudi government issues a statement confirming that Khashoggi is missing. It says he disappeared after leaving the consulate building the day before. But Turkey maintains that Khashoggi never left the consulate premises. On October 7th, Turkish officials say they believe that Jamal Khashoggi has been killed, possibly by a group of 15 men who arrived from Saudi Arabia on September 29th. Almost immediately, on October 7th, Saudi government officials issued denials of any involvement in the journalist's murder. On October 10th, a CCTV footage is released. It shows the Saudi delegation in Istanbul at a hotel at the consulate. The video also shows Khashoggi's arrival at the Saudi consulate and his fiancée waiting for him outside. There's a flurry of vehicles that is also captured outside the consulate. Then, on October 12th, Turkish investigators say that there are audio recordings which prove that Khashoggi was in fact killed. Some officials go on to say that evidence also reveals his body was dismembered, carried out in plastic bags, even a suitcase, and eventually disposed of. From here, more questions emerge of Saudi involvement in the journalist's murder, and these accusations go all the way to the top: the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. It wasn't until October 15th, 13 days after Khashoggi was last seen that the consulate gives search permission to Turkish authorities. Now remember, the consulate of a country has special powers, and one of them include no entry without permission. Also, in some cases, rules of the host country do not really apply. Now, in the days that followed, there's a flurry of diplomatic activity. Donald Trump, who is serving his first term as the US president, vows to get to the bottom of this case. He promises punishment, but diplomatic ties with Saudi shall remain intact. It is only on October 19 that Saudi Arabia officially admits Jamal Khashoggi has been killed at the country's consulate in Istanbul. But Saudi officials even then said that he died in a quote brawl. On October 23rd, visuals emerge of an abandoned car partially hidden by a tarp. This car belongs to the Saudi consulate. Turkish forensic teams take the car away for further investigation. Now, by this time, Turkey has shared audio recordings of Khashoggi with US. Reports begin to emerge that CIA Director Gina Haspel has listened to that audio, which purportedly captured Khashoggi's killing. Now, the audio, obtained through a bug planted by Turkish intelligence, reportedly has sounds of struggled, heavy breathing, and later, the sound of a saw can be heard. Turkey shares this chilling recording with Saudi Arabia and other European countries as well. But it isn't till mid-November that year that the Arab kingdom admits to the gory and brutal manner in which Khashoggi was killed. On 17th November 2018, everything changes. US intelligence concludes that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, approved the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi. According to reports in the Washington Post, the CIA examined evidence given by Turkey and inputs of its own intelligence as well. Reports then said that Maher Mutreb, an alleged member of the Saudi hit team and a security official for the Crown Prince, placed a phone call to a top aide for bin Salman. He informed him that the job had been done. But for all the roads of investigation and accusation to lead to a country's ruler, begs the question, why? Why is it that the Crown Prince had to be involved in some capacity or the other in a journalist's murder? Khashoggi's history before moving from Saudi to the US may have something to do with this. Before Khashoggi became an out-and-out critic of the Saudi government, he spent decades covering stories for various Saudi media organizations. The 59-year-old, it is said, was close to the Saudi royal family. In fact, he also served as an advisor to the government. But clearly something happened that triggered a fallout, and Khashoggi went into self-imposed exile to the US in 2017. So maybe that establishes motive. Now for the action taken. Saudi arrested 21 individuals over months. It sacked 5 senior government officials, including Deputy Intelligence Chief Ahmad Asiri and Saud al-Qahtani, a senior aide to Prince Mohammed. In 2019, 11 accused went to trial. Riyadh court sentenced 5 of them to death. But this is where things take a turn. In 2020, Salah Khashoggi, Jamal's son, announced that he and his brothers were, quote, pardoning those who had killed their father. Salah, at the time of this development, lived in Saudi. In September 2020, Riyadh Criminal Court commuted the death sentences and brought down the punishment to a few years in jail. In December 2021, reports began to emerge that at least 3 members of a Saudi hit squad convicted of murdering Jamal Khashoggi were living and working in what was called a 7-star accommodation. All of this inside a government-run security compound in Riyadh. In all this time, Jamal Khashoggi's remains have not been recovered, and they never will. So the question remains, what kind of justice is this for a renowned journalist? And why do questions around it irk American and Saudi leadership so much?